Jason, I've known you for a few years now. I've seen what you've done. I know your story. I know what you're doing. First of all, I want to thank you for coming on and kind of sharing your story, because I think you have a unique story that is unique to you, but is completely relatable to a lot of people in corporate world or in their job. And you've made that transition through buying real estate. And I don't want to give too much away, but hey, do you mind telling us a little bit of what got you interested in real estate?
Yeah, it probably started because, like everybody else, you hate your job, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, how do I get out of this? And another job is probably going to have the same kind of like problems, right? All jobs just kind of suck. So I was like, what is the way out of this? How are people being like financially independent? And everybody that I like studied was doing it through real estate. So I'm like, man, I guess that's my way. From there, I just started like listening to podcasts and attending meetups and reading books and just trying to figure out how I could start making money in real estate. And that was a while ago. Probably 2011 is kind of when I first thought about getting started, but I didn't actually pull the trigger until 2015.
Okay. So what kept you from pulling the trigger earlier?
So I was putting out Bandit signs in 2011. I started, and then the police caught me putting out Bandit signs at 1 a.m. in Hurst, and my wife was driving. Yeah. My wife was driving the car, and I was popping out.
The getaway car.
Yeah, dude. She popped the trunk open. No, she didn't leave me. She popped the trunk, and I'd hammer that sign in, and then a police officer rolled around and caught us and pulled us over. And he opened the back door of his car up, and it was full of Bandit signs from everybody, not just me, everybody.
Yeah.
So this dude like hated Bandit signs, threatened to arrest me and stuff. And I was like, you know what? Forget this. I'm not doing real estate again.
Right.
I'm done.
What did your in-laws say? Like, why did my daughter get involved with this guy?
I was probably not like a prime candidate for their daughter at that point.
Sure. Yeah.
But man, I had to find a way to do it. So I tried again.
So what was the thing? What was the first thing you did? The first real estate move you made?
I started sending out postcards instead of doing the Bandit sign. And I did that all wrong too. But in 2015, if you send out a couple thousand postcards, you can get a deal, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's how a lot of my, when I was buying on my own, that's what I did. I knew that for every 3,000 postcards I sent, I could get a house.
Yeah.
And I knew how much a house would make me. And I just kind of kept doing it. Yeah.
You didn't even have to be like particularly good at it, because I wasn't. Like,
no,
you just throw postcards out there, you get a deal. So I did that and got some wholesaling deals.
Okay. So tell me about your first deal.
First deal was a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom house in north side of Fort Worth. And the lady, I somehow negotiated. I didn't know what it was worth, man. It was hard to comp. I didn't have MLS access. I got it for like $12,000. And then I put my name on the buyer side and her. No, wait. I put my name on the seller side and her name on the buyer side. I didn't know how to fill a contract out. And I found a guy on Facebook, and he's like, man, I got a buyer for that. So I made $5,000 and he made $2,000. And that's kind of what got me thirsty for more.
And was that $5,000 exciting?
Yeah. I mean, to make $5,000 just like that, I was like, dude, if I can do this multiple times a month or make it a little bit more money than $5,000, this is crazy.
Right. So do you just jump out of your job at that time?
So my wife was, 6 months pregnant and 4 months pregnant. And I had done that deal and one other deal. And I told her, I said, I'm going to quit my job and do this full time. And she was like, okay, I got your back. If you want to do this and you think you can, go for it. I'm like, what's the worst that could happen is that I fail and I go get another job. I hate my job anyways. So I'm like, let's just go ahead and try it and see what happens. So
what was the job that you quit? Like, was it McDonald's flipping hamburgers at $5 an hour, or was it I was a corporate executive making 300 G's a year?
I was at a corporate office. I was managing a rental department for a forklift dealership. So I had 7 branches across Texas I was responsible for. I had like 8 employees I was responsible for. I was making a lot of money, but man, I hated it. It was terrible. Every day I'd come over the bridge to go to work there, and I'd look at that building like, I just feel it in my stomach, the anxiety, man. I just hated it.
I can relate to that. I can relate to it, but I got uninvited to my job, so it was easier for me.
Mine was easy too. Somebody wanted that job way more than I did, so I let them have it.
Yeah, it's interesting how I look at jobs differently now than when I was in a job. I don't know. You probably look at it very differently too. Like, could you ever get put back into the the company cage and back
unemployable, dude. There's
I think once you go, I always use it as an analogy of like, if you go to the zoo and you see a lion in that cage, and he's been in a cage his entire life. So
yeah,
he's like, cool. He's like, throw me a steak, hang out, roar for the kids every once in a while. And he doesn't have a horrible life. I mean, he has everything he wants, right? He has all the food. He doesn't have to worry about anything coming up and killing him. I mean, he's got a good life.
yeah.
But I'm willing to bet money if you let that lion out of the cage and put him out in the savannah and he got to stretch his legs, run around, chase things, I think he'd be happier. And I think if you brought him back in the cage, he would go into severe depression and die. Like that.
Or he'd be real mad. Yeah, you're right.
He would never go back. And so I think that's kind of what it's like in corporate world, is like, it's not as, they don't think it's as bad as it is because they've never tasted, I'm going to say freedom. So, yeah.
I mean, you're right. Once you figure out that the corporate world, you're just trading time for money,
right?
Then you're like, I mean, it doesn't matter how much they pay you. You're still trading your time for money. And I mean, there's more to life than that for sure. So, once you get a taste of it, you're like, I'm not doing that ever again.
Yeah. So you did 2 deals. You jumped on a limb. You had a kid coming down the pipe in 3 months.
Yeah. It was stressful.
What was it like for the next 2 years or year?
I mean, for a while, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have like a mentor. I just listened to like podcasts and books. And I'm like, well, if these guys can do it, I can figure it out.
Yeah.
But I made a lot of mistakes along the way. Thankfully, I never got to a point where we were broke. We were definitely bouncing on some credit cards for a while there.
Right. Yeah.
But we made it through somehow, man. Doing a lot of wholesales and some flips and stuff like that.
Well, when you have to make a dollar, you can figure out how to make a dollar.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think it's when you don't have a choice, you do it. And I think a lot of people, when you step out, that's why they say burn the boats when you try to take ashore, like, because you just make it an option. You can't go back, and you'll make it happen.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that's how every entrepreneur that has jumped into any sort of venture, they're just not afraid to take the risk and go all in and do whatever it takes to make it happen.
Yeah. So you're doing wholesale deals, and I know that's not what you're doing necessarily now. So what was the progression of your real estate experience? So
started with wholesaling a lot of stuff, and I was flipping some houses too. And then as soon as I wasn't bankable, I had just quit my job. I had 1 year of experience in real estate, and I really wanted to start holding rentals. I knew this is very transactional. I do not like wholesaling houses and having to like schedule, and I didn't like all the moving pieces. So I was like, how do I hold some of these houses to start building a rental portfolio? And I went to my bank and I was like, this is my plan. This is what I want to do. And my banker said, if you find the deal, we'll fund the purchase. If you fund the rehab, and we'll give you a loan on it. I'm like, oh,
that's the nicest banker ever. I mean, that's not normal.
It was a community bank, and I had built a relationship with them like over the previous year, and like went in there all the time and knew them. So they knew me, and I guess they're just willing to take a chance on me. And man, I'm glad they did.
Yeah. That's impressive, because I built my portfolio off of private money loans and what we call DSCR loans, which are, private equity funds that put together loan programs, and it's debt service coverage ratio. So they don't go through the bank underwriting process, because as a business owner, like you mentioned, unbankable, like I don't look like their ideal owner or client.
Right.
So,
yeah. When you have a bunch of real estate, you have a bunch of write-offs and all that stuff makes you look not great on paper sometimes, right?
Right. So how long did it take before you became comfortable? Like, you didn't sweat every morning when you woke up?
Man, I probably still sweat every morning when I wake up.
No, you don't, because I call you all the time, and I'm like, and you're no, today's my day off. Like, I'm going to do something on Thursday, but my Wednesday's off. My Friday's lunch with the kids at school. So you're not sweating every day when you wake up anymore.
Okay. Well, maybe not as much as I used to, but I still have the pressure on to keep going. But I think, man, it was until I had 15, 17 rentals where I'm like, okay, this can cover not all of my monthly, expenses, but most of it, where there's a little layer of security there for doing that.
Yeah. So as of right now, we're in a market where interest rates are up, values of homes are up, so there's probably less deals out there. What kind of advice would you have to somebody that's kind of looking for either rentals or wholesales right now?
Man, it's a crazy market right now. It's really hard to predict what's going to happen in the future. So there's still deals out there. I haven't stopped buying like rental properties.
Right.
But I think wholesaling is always a safe option in any time of uncertainty. That way you're not stuck with the bag, if something drops or interest rates rise. But I would still be looking for good opportunities that cash flow today. Don't be scared to not buy a deal just because you're afraid of what might or might not happen in the future.
Yeah. I remember once, I don't know if I read a book, if I was listening to somebody, like all the things that people are afraid of, almost none of those ever happen. Like the worst case scenario never happens. So it's like, don't worry so much.
Even if it does happen, we're all screwed.
Yeah.
So who cares, right?
Yeah.
Just go for it. I mean,
and there's no such thing as a free education either. I'm always like, if you learn from everything, your wins, your losses, everything.
Absolutely. And if you don't learn from your losses, then, it kind of sucks. But if you learn from them, then that's just like the part of learning the business. It's paid education. Hopefully you didn't get burned too bad.
Yeah. So I always hear about these people that have paid $50,000 for a class, $20,000 for a class. And in today's world with YouTube, the cost of entry is not anything like it used to be.
No way. Anything you want to learn is on the internet. So like, there's no reason for anybody to need to pay 50 grand, man. I just like someone wants a roadmap laid out for them, but the best way to learn it is just by doing it yourself and figuring it out.
So tell you what are some of the mentors or people that influenced you early on and then now? Because I know you probably had different mentors early and now you probably got different ones as you progress.
Yeah, so early on, it was like I listened to Sean Terry. He was a wholesaler out of Arizona, and he had a podcast, and it was like 130 episodes on how to wholesale houses. And on the way to and from work, I listened to every one of those episodes to learn how to do the business. That was my main source of education.
And he has a class too, if I remember right.
He might.
I think that's how I got started too on Postcards. Wow. Sean Terry, he was a Marine or something.
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got caught on some ad or something. I watched his little tickler video and I'm like, that makes sense. He had like $500 buy-in to get all my classes. And I did the $500 and I listened to and watched just what I was really interested in. That's how I did my postcards. And then that was it.
Yeah.
And then I was off to the races.
It worked, man. That's all like we both needed to get started. Yeah. It was great, great expense, great education. But now, man, I'm like surrounding myself with people that are where I want to go. You know what I mean? That are at a level that I want to get to. So I'm trying to network with more people that are doing things I want to start getting into.
Right.
So I think always surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you is important, right?
Right. Yeah. And I agree with you on that. I'm a big believer the 5 people you're around the most is who you become. You're the average of the 5 that you're around the most. That's why I try to hang out with you and the other guys once a month at a barbecue restaurant. Because y'all are doing what I want to do either or vice versa.
I learn a lot from you.
Everybody at our table, everybody has a completely different real estate life.
Yeah.
So I can pick up on things from, like, I don't wholesale, but every once in a while you might have something extra and I might benefit you by taking something off your plate or vice versa. So,
yeah, I think that's true. Like also, so not only are they smarter than you or maybe the same intelligence as you, but doing something different in the same field. Like you do property management, I do rentals, and then someone else does RV parks and someone else does lending. It's good to have all that brain power just to like talk and figure things out.
I don't think that restaurant appreciates us as much as they should. Because I mean, that's a pretty good group. We did actually have somebody pay in an auction to come sit and eat lunch and pick our brains.
I missed that.
You did miss that one.
Oh,
the person didn't show up.
I was there. Yeah,
I told my wife, you won't believe this. They did a charity auction, and one of the items was to hang out with us for lunch one day and just kind of talk to us. First, my wife didn't even hesitate, and she's like, somebody's a sucker or somebody like who would pay for that. And I was like, I thought somebody would have some value in that, but
that's hilarious.
Yeah,
man. Makes you feel real good about yourself.
It does, but but that leads on to another question that talking about wives and families and kids. Like, how would you say real estate changed your life?
Oh man, immensely.
Like personally, financially, everything. Like just in general, like you don't have to get too deep.
Well, I didn't think life could be this good. How about that? And
That's
I'm not
awesome.
saying that like in a bragging way, but I get to do whatever I want with my time every day. So I get to I volunteer at my son's school once a week for a few hours and just hang out with him. And
he's going to remember that. And that's an investment in him. Yeah.
And ultimately, life is all about the memories we can create with our family. In my opinion, that's what I value.
Yeah.
So if I can spend time with my family and make money doing that, man, that's what life's all about to me.
Right.
So yeah, it's changed everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
And you're a volunteer fireman too, right?
Yeah.
So you're giving back to the community and having fun. Like, I think you're just posting pyro pics every once in a while.
You don't want me fighting a fire, man. I'm not the dude. I'm the cheerleader for those guys, I guess. But,
yeah. Well, you hold the camera that everybody watches on live.
Yeah. I got an important job.
Yeah.
I mean, I put the suit up and I could gear up and go do that. I think there are probably people that are better qualified than me to do that. Yeah. But I enjoy that stuff, man. I enjoy volunteering and getting involved and meeting people in the community and stuff.
So with your real estate investing right now, obviously it's progressed over time. What's something that you've learned that you maybe implemented recently in your investment life that is taking you to the next level?
Man, the power of leveraging rentals and their equity has been like a game changer. So like stacking up 5 or 7 rentals, that's important and you have to start there. But focusing on getting to a bigger number allows you to do so much more things. When you can take a portfolio of rentals and do a cash out refinance and pull out some money and then invest that into something bigger.
Sure.
That's kind of where things start to snowball.
I think that's so overlooked.
Yeah. 100%.
We have a significant property management company that we manage not quite 1,000 houses for people. And I am shocked at the number of very successful people that I want to have that house paid off. I had a lady walk into the office. She gave us 12 houses to manage. They're all paid off.
No.
And she's like, hey, cool. Like, that's it. Like, and she's like, I like the money off of them. I'm like, yeah, I would too. But you could 50% leverage, have 24 houses.
Yeah.
And with the taxes and the appreciation and like all of the other things that come along with it would be, I mean, she doesn't need the money, but game changer is what comes to mind to me.
Dude, yeah. I mean, but some people, that's important to have it free and clear. They don't want the debt. They don't want the stress. And I get that. But that's kind of one of the most important things of real estate is the ability to leverage, where you can take 200 grand cash and go leverage $1 million versus like the stock market. You take 200 grand cash and you got 200 grand worth of stocks.
Right.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, but to each their own.
I think that's probably one of my big moments also is understanding the term debt equity. And that the way I've been taught debt equity is the equity that's in the house that you're not really making money off of. It's just there because your house is going to go up the same amount every year. Your principal payments are going down. Like it's just equity. Your return on investment, your cash on cash, it goes down, or your return on investment goes down with the more equity in the property. So skim that out. For one, you're less of a target for lawsuits because you got debt on that property. The other thing is you take that and turn that into another down payment on the next house and start the game all over again with free money. It was just sitting there doing nothing otherwise.
Yeah. Get it out tax free and put it back into something else. I agree, man. I think that's kind of the part of the rule book is buy the houses, buy a bunch of them, refinance them every 5 years or, whatever, and pull that money out and do something else with it.
Do more. Because I think there's a point where, your first few years is really tough because you're just trying to accumulate. You don't have the equity. You don't really have the cash flow maybe. But after that year, I don't know, 5, you start really starting to see it. And when you look at the spreadsheet, you're like, oh, I might be able to do something with this. And I can tell you my portfolio, that's when things happened, like really significantly happened. And, that's when we get to do the fun stuff is when that kind of that cash builds up.
Same, man. Yeah. That's a game changer right there. So people that miss that part, man, don't miss that. Stack these rentals up.
Yeah.
And it is a numbers game. So get as many as you can.
All right. So let's look through some more of these questions. I think you've done really good at explaining how you balance personal life and your commitments. And it sounds like real estate's really opened up your life to be able to enjoy it more. So it sounds like to me.
Yeah. And I love real estate too. So, I don't have like any hobbies. I think it's just work and family. So, but I love both of them.
Yeah. People ask me what I do for fun. I'm like, real estate, what do you like? Real estate, like real estate. That's the answer to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was on a podcast recently and they asked me, what's it like going to work every day, managing all these rental houses. I'm like, it's fun. This is what I do. And it's real estate. Real estate's fun. Everything about it, how to make it work. And then how you can get a couple more dollars out of a house or in it because they're listening. But tenants. Yeah.
But there's ways, right? There's ways.
Yeah.
Protesting your taxes or whatever, shopping insurance, just, ways to find more efficiency.
Mm-hmm. And in talking about taxes, I don't think very many people understand the tax burden that they have with the W-2.
Oh, man,
You probably noticed that when you went from W-2 job to real estate, your tax burden went down because every time you bought a house, that became another depreciating asset that you were able to purchase that appreciated. But as far as taxes go, you were able to write that off.
Yeah. I did a cost segregation study a few years back, and it's been a while since I paid taxes, man.
Isn't that wild?
It's crazy. It's crazy. So that is a huge benefit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we talked about all the pretty fun stuff. Give me an example of a bad experience that you had in real estate investing. Do you have any of those? I'm sure you do. Everybody has something. I've had contractors steal from me. I've had a...
Oh, yeah. That's the common stuff. Okay. Right. Yeah, we can go there. Okay. That's happened a lot.
Well, if you got a good crazy story, I'd like to hear it.
Man, if I got anything crazy, I don't know if it's anything crazy, but like my second flip, I hired some guys to do it, and they did a terrible job, and didn't finish. And it was like 6 months going on, and I was not like good at managing contractors. I had to fire them and bring someone else in and pay an extra like 15 grand that I really didn't have to finish that rehab out to get it on the market. That's probably something bad that's happened.
And I think that is a good point for someone thinking about doing their first deal. A lot of people think they can do everything. They can find the right guy off of Facebook or Craigslist or whatever. And I can tell you, I've seen so many people want to be a real estate investor that first deal got just burned to the ground by picking the wrong contractors or picking the wrong comps or expectations on a property. And I think more people need to lean on someone with experience on contractors and instead of just jumping in, because everybody thinks they're an expert and everybody thinks real estate's easy too. That's what, everybody's like, oh, that's easy. Like there's a little bit more to it.
It ain't easy, man. I mean, it's easy to do it and like not do it successfully, I guess, but project management is huge. And then just keeping a good records of everything you're spending money on for your houses and good bookkeeping, all that stuff is super important that no one really talks about. They talk about wholesale a deal and flip a deal and make 30 grand. Well, that's the easy part, man. Really, the hard part is the nuts and bolts underneath the veil. And
I think flipping houses and wholesales, that's the most expensive way to make the money too, is because of the tax thing.
Yeah.
So if I flipped a house and I make 50 grand, I didn't make 50 grand.
No.
I got a 50 grand income hit on my taxes, and it's just not fun. I don't like flipping houses like I used to anymore. Like,
no,
I prefer just to buy and hold, even though it's a long play and it's short term, it's more painful because it'd be fun to get the extra 30, 40, 50 grand in your pocket. But I'd rather put it in a house and have it for later on.
I agree, man. Like early on, that's what my mindset was like, I could make 40 grand if I sold this house, or I could make $400 a month if I keep it. And just knowing that security was what I was after, and financial freedom is what stopped me from just flipping everything and making that 40 grand. Because I don't know where that money would be now. It'd be gone,
Yeah.
So now it's producing money every month, and it will forever.
Well, it goes back to that whole delayed gratification piece. And human nature doesn't allow us to do that. Like very few people have an innate like delayed gratification bug. Most people want it now. Like that they want everything now. They want that big check now. And they think they have more money if it's in the bank than if it's in the house. And I'm not a very good saver when it comes to like money in my bank, because I just keep doing like investments or doing stupid stuff. But I think with me forcing my money into houses, it sets up my savings on auto draft or auto pay. So
it's like your little piggy banks all over the place, right?
Right. Yeah. And that piggy bank pays for the fun stuff. If you structure it right. So, but that whole delayed gratification, I think that's the biggest overlooked thing that's keeping people from jumping in.
I agree with that, man. I think that people will make that money and they go buy stuff, but instead of that, they should buy assets and let those assets pay for the stuff that you want.
Right.
If you have enough cash flow from assets that affords you a life, man, then you got it made.
Yeah.
So that should be what I think everybody should work on.
I think so. I think so too, but we got to have people that keep the machine rolling for us, right?
Yeah. And it's not for everybody, man. Yeah. So this business is tough at times and stressful at times, and it's not for everybody. So I get that too.
Right. And like you jumped out, I got pushed out But man, I couldn't go back into that life. But I think for a large part of the population, that's a comfort thing for them to know that they've got that W-2 hitting their bank account every 2 weeks or once a month or twice a month.
Security, right?
Right. It is. It's security until it's not.
That's exactly right.
Right. But I get it. I understand that. I mean, I grew up in an environment where my parents had, 9-to-5 type jobs, and you don't take it home with you after 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock or whatever. So I can see the benefit, but man, I just can't live that life.
The best things in life always happen when you step outside your comfort zone. Right. So when you just say, this is really cushy and comfy, and if you're making 6 figures, it doesn't matter. If you step outside your comfort zone, life is going to be way better, guaranteed.
Right. I think the other thing is when people are looking at a real estate investor, they ask, well, how much money do you make on that house per month? And then you tell them, maybe it's $300, maybe it's $400. They're like, that's not worth it. But I always try and tell people I make money 4 different ways on every house, at least 4 ways. I've got somebody, the cash flow, maybe it's $100, maybe it's $500. I got somebody paying down that mortgage. So to me, that's the same as cash flow to me, because they're money in my savings account for me. The house is hopefully going up in value. So I got the appreciation. And then the tax thing, I mean, that's so overlooked.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then you've got the freedom to pull that equity out with a cash out refi with no taxes whenever you want, And
I think the tax thing, it really, that's the part people don't understand. 1031 exchanges, like that is one of the, other than cash out refis, that's one of the biggest, along with cost segregation analysis, like those are the biggest financial vehicles that are allotted to us.
Oh yeah.
So Donald Trump money, I guess is what that's why he doesn't pay taxes.
If you look at all the wealthy folks, they've all got real estate for those reasons,
Yeah, I completely agree. So let's talk about advice for other people. I think we might have hit on it a little bit. So not everybody, you said, should jump out and go full time. What's your advice for the average person that may stumble across this conversation?
For the average person, you got to become a little above average to make it work, right? You got to want it real bad and just be consistent with one thing. And be persistent with that one thing. Like I said, man, that's why I didn't continue on after 2011 when I got pulled over. I was not persistent. I gave up way too easily. And I could only imagine where I would be now if I had those extra 4 years. So just don't give up. When things get tough and when things don't work, try something else and just keep on pushing forward. That's what it takes to make it successful.
Yeah. I'm sure your wife had a lot of really good conversations with her mom's club group about that. That's a good story.
And she was on board, man. She was always my supporter. That's awesome. Even like when it failed, she was with me. And then when I said, I want to try it again, she was all about it.
Really?
So yeah, I think that's also important to have like someone that's helping you push forward and like having faith in you.
So did she come from a background where a parent was self-employed or something of that nature what about you? No. Did you come from a background where somebody was self-employed?
No, my mom was self-employed for a while. So maybe that was it. But for me, I always am concerned about what life is going to be like for me when I'm 65 years old. Yeah. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall at corporate America. I'm like, my retirement is going to suck if I stay here for the next 40 years or whatever. So that's why I decided to get into real estate, really, is to make a change for my future and my kids' future. Yeah.
I don't know why, but my entire life, I guess I looked at my great grandparents and they didn't have really anything. Like they didn't I don't know. They didn't have extra. I mean, they just didn't have anything. Yeah. And I've just always worried in the back of my mind, like scared to death that I would be old and not have anything. Like, yeah, other than maybe owning my house. I've always been scared about that because
same.
And I've always worked out of that whole, like, in 30 years, what's going to happen to me? Because I just don't want to be a drain on my kids at all. And I want to educate my kids on how not to become what I see so many other people out there doing as far as not having.
I think like that fear mentality that you and I both have is probably not like the healthiest thing, but I mean, it's what drives me. I'm right there with you. I don't want to be on Social Security.
And, I don't know where that comes from. I know that when I was in third grade, I went to 3 different third grades, and it would have been 4 because my dad worked in the oil field. That's oil for some people, oil field for me. And I guess that was when we had a market, the oil field went down, and he was fortunate enough that they let him keep a job, but it wasn't there. And we had to move all the way down to South Texas, and he was there for a couple of months. I just started to learn anything in Spanish to where I could even somewhat associate down there. And then we got moved to Oklahoma. And then he got another notice that they're doing another layoff. 1, 2, 3. So there have been 3 layoffs that he survived, and we're going to go somewhere else.
Wow.
And then he's like, no, can't do it. And then, so that's when we went back to East Texas, and he was able to get a job there. But I think seeing that happen and not have that stability and know that somebody could yank me up and put me somewhere else or cut me off, I think it made a long-term impact on me to some level.
100%.
Yeah.
That's what impacted you, man. If you saw that, like somehow that was deeply rooted in your mindset at a young age, right?
Yeah.
So that explains, I think a lot of people, I came from like nothing, from, trailer park, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I like a lot of entrepreneurs have the same thing where they came from nothing and like, I'm never going back there.
Yeah. And I think I've seen this a lot, and we may want to edit this for PC reasons, but a lot of the people that have nothing, when they get that $5,000, $20,000 wholesale check, they go out and buy the cool, fun truck and then they just don't know how to manage money. And so they never get out of that cycle. So what was it that drew real estate to you?
Financial freedom, man. The ability to have passive income.
How'd you find out? Like, how did you even know that was a thing?
Do you remember Carlton Sheets?
Yeah. I mean, I never watched him or anything.
Oh, my mom had like the VCR tapes, and when I was like 20 years old, she sent that to me. She was hers. It was old. She's like, here, watch this. And I watched it. I'm like, there's something to this guy, man. This no money down thing. So that's kind of what got me. I had no interest in real estate until I just watched that randomly. I think I was probably drinking beer watching that. And that kind of got me the bug.
So my family, bankers, school teachers, that's just kind of what my mom and dad were while I was growing up. And so those are the most stable jobs. Like, when do school teachers get laid off? Like, that doesn't happen. Or like, because he went from being in the oil field to like, let's go to school teaching because I don't have to worry about getting let go. He has a pension, so that's pretty cool. And then my mom did the banking thing. I mean, that's there. So to me, I didn't have that. I just knew that I wanted to be a business owner. I just wanted to be in control. I wanted to like make decisions that impacted me and my family. And I remember I was at A&M right before I was graduating. I did 5 years. I did the victory lap thing. It took me a little longer. I worked in a sorority house, so I had no incentive to graduate early.
Oh yeah, you're having a good time.
Yeah. And so my mother sent me 2 books. One book was Millionaire Next Door. And she sent me that because it teaches all about delayed gratification and like saving up for tomorrow and not living beyond your means and all, or living within it, that sort of thing, which is all the banker's going to tell you that. And then the other book, and I asked her later, like, you sent me this book, and she had never read the book. I don't think she would have sent me the book if she had read it.
Oh man.
And it was the Rich Dad Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki, which is,
oh man,
that's outside the box for a banker, because
for sure
that's their clients, of course, but that's not a banker's mentality on creating something and leveraging. Like that's not something that you would want to do. I mean,
no,
you do it when you're desperate, right? No.
Yeah.
But, learning how leverage work and how incomes and expenses work and how assets, they tell you all this stuff about assets in that book, but they don't line up with what they tell you in an accounting class at A&M.
Oh yeah.
Like the whole,
100%.
like I got a nice truck sitting in the parking lot, and, I could say, hey, that's an asset, but I look at it as a liability because I read the book and I'm like, no, it cost me money to drive that thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me money. And all the rental houses make me money. And, what I have maybe the stock market makes me money on dividends and things of that nature. But, the whole income and expenses and assets and liabilities, that was eye opening, especially the second book on cash flow quadrant. I mean, that was a shocker. And I think once you read those books, I mean, you're ruined. Like you look at the whole world. It's like taking the red pill instead of the blue pill.
Yeah.
In the Matrix.
Can't go back.
I took the red pill, and I look at everything very differently now as a result of that. But that ruined me. That ruined me for corporate world real quick.
Those are good books, man. Great books.
Yeah. What do you want to add to this? What am I missing?
If I had a piece of advice to give to my younger self, would just be to never give up. And that's so important to me that I tattooed it on my arm, man. So
did you really?
I absolutely did. And I show my kids that, and because they give up on stuff, and I'm like, hey, never give up. Never give up. The only way to get better at something is to keep on trying. I wish I would have told my younger self that, just to keep going, even when it gets hard. Yeah.
I'm not really a tattoo kind of guy, because I've always figured once I got that tattoo, my taste is going to change or something's going to change. But I can say that's going to be something that would never go out of style. Like
Shouldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
I had
shouldn't.
a hard time with tattoos. I got my first one like 2 years ago and then kind of went from there. But they're all things that are symbolic of things that are important in my life that
Right.
have meaning. So
And aren't going to change.
never going to change. No.
Right. Yeah. It's not going to be that ex-girlfriend from when you're 19 years old or something. Right.
No, sir. I did not make that drunken mistake.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. All right. So what's in the pipe? What's your next thing? So we talked about your wholesaling. Now you got your rentals. What's your next big? Are you just going to keep accumulating, and that's going to be the end of your story, or is there something bigger, better down the road?
There's probably something bigger and better down the road. But right now, I won't stop ever probably buying houses. It seems too easy. It's kind of like almost an autopilot, not entirely.
Right.
But I am at the point where I'm like, this is kind of boring now. So what's
Right.
next?
I hear
So
you.
I'm working on some other stuff.
Right.
One of them is going to be property management training for people that self-manage their own rental portfolio. So,
And I'm super excited about that. And my story is I got into property management really right out of college because that's when I bought my first rental property. And then when I left that job, that one I quit. I quit that job.
Nice.
And shouldn't have, but I did. And I was like, what am I going to do? Because I didn't really have a plan. I quit the job because I got really cheap airline tickets to France. I don't know if I told you
I remember this story.
Yeah, so I got a really good deal, and I'm like, I got to use this in 3 weeks. I quit, and then I got back, and I'm like, crap, like it's not as easy to get a job as I thought it was. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And I just started I got a real estate license. I started helping people buy duplexes, and then I would manage them. So I would rent the houses. I'd buy the houses for them, rent them out for them, and then manage it because I figured I'd get that residual paycheck and get a couple of checks to kind of pay my bills. And it worked a little bit. I was broke. I was always broke, but that's how I got into it. And back then, man, I didn't know what I was doing. And I don't know what they were thinking, trusting me with those houses either. I didn't do anything right. I remember I didn't do anything right. But there was no training at that time, like early 2000s.
Yeah. Oh man, no.
The internet was there, but it wasn't there
today.
for that. It was there for Amazon books, kinda, and that was it.
Yeah.
So I made all the mistakes. I had no idea what I was doing. When I was doing statements, it was printing it off of a program I got on a CD-ROM that didn't. It was very archaic by our standards. Man. So I had no idea what I was doing. But there's no classes like that. There was none.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of value in that. I think there's a lot of people out there that buy. But right before this podcast, I had a gentleman walk into my office that come to town from California, moved here to Texas. They bought, I think, 7 houses at one time. And so when I met him, it was at a neighborhood Halloween neighborhood party, like everybody's party, and everybody's got their golf carts out and having a good time. And
nice.
That's how I met him through that. And his wife has a really good professional job. And then I said, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, I just take care of our rental houses. And I'm like, that sounds like a lot or something. And it was. And then, a few months later, they're like, hey, Kyle, I think you could help us out on this. We got a bad tenant. And then so we got that tenant out. I walked into the house. When we have a house that we have a tenant move out of and we got to clean it up, it's not a big deal. 99% of the time, it's like maybe paint. There's some little things here and there, but we're watching the tenant while they're in there. We do a really good job scrutinizing them. It was an over $40,000 make ready. That tenant busted cabinet doors, 2 refrigerators in the property, nice ones. One of them had the doors off.
Oh my gosh!
So and they all had food in them. Everything was turned off. The flooring had been they used laminate floors, which not to do.
Yeah.
And it was all poofed up around everywhere. Like doors had holes in them, paint on walls. It was a bad place. 40 grand. You got to do a lot for 40 grand.
Oh yeah.
And he needed your class.
For sure.
Yeah. But I mean, there's so many things that you've learned that a new investor doesn't know yet, because a lot of what we learn is from past experience, and I would rather have learned off of your experience, because I'm sure you've had some of bad experiences. I'd rather learn from somebody else than on me, and I'm happy I didn't cause somebody $40,000.
Oh man,
in damage when I wasn't doing a very good job managing back then. But now we've got all these processes and resources. So people like you, there's really not a very many self-management programs out there. So I think you're going to have a lot of opportunity to kind of educate a lot of people and make a few dollars at the same time.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm passionate about it, and I think I've figured out not everything, but I mean a lot of this stuff. So hope I can share some of the people
Well,
and benefit them.
what I tell people is you may not like maybe a new employee, like you're not an expert to me because I know a little more, but you're an expert to the person sitting across the table from you that you know more. So the expert is the
True.
person that knows more than the other person. You know a lot more than the vast majority of the population out there. So you absolutely have a lot to educate people or to provide. And so when this is live, because this is going to be on YouTube,
It's gonna be
all
your
those
podcast.
places. So
Oh, nice.
I'll put it down there somewhere so that when somebody says, "Hey, I want to," Jason mentioned how to not have a big, huge mistake in property management, then I'll have a link to that down there.
Yeah, leanlandlording.com.
Leanlandlording.com. That's a good one.
Yep.
That's
Thanks.
a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
took me a few tries to see which domain was available, and that's the one I landed on.
And I think it's important to let people know that real estate investing is not scary, and it will absolutely change your life. And I think for the most part, in a positive way.
Yeah.
If it's done right, it will be in the positive way. And it's not something that you have to go full time. You can do it just buying a house every once in a while.
For sure.
And I want people to realize that it's not scary. Yeah, we have the scary stories every once in a while, but in the whole scheme of things, it's not. But I want people to know that it's attainable and it's something that's available to everybody. Because what I've learned is I read too much, and I'm going to say I read, but it's really I listen to those audibles because
I like those too.
I'm driving all the time.
Yeah.
And there was a report that I did read. This report is all these big private equity companies sponsored a research paper on residential income properties, single families in the United States. And this is when they were first buying up everything, American Homes for Rent, all the Progress, all those companies. And they were trying to figure out what the market size was out there and what did it look like. And the vast majority of single family homes at the time and still are is single, like individuals own them, like just like you and your wife own rentals, me and my wife own rentals, individuals. Yeah. And then there's the people that own like 5 to 10. And then there's people that really own more. I think they didn't call them whales, but they were like significantly like that's their livelihood is having rental properties. And they also went to all these people and they're like, "Hey, so you own one house. Tell me about it." And then the response was, "It's the best investment I have. All of the investments, my rental house, I only have one, but that's my best investment." And, they got the 401k, they got whatever, but that rental house is my best investment. And so they followed up that question with, if that's your best investment, why don't you have more? And their answer was, and this is why this podcast is it. Their answer was, because I don't know how to get more. And to you and to me, that's not a problem. Like that's an easily answered solution. Like
absolutely.
Problem. Like we could answer that problem in an hour. Yeah. Like we could
lunch conversation.
Cash out refi, turn that into another 1031 exchange that into another property. Like there's so many things that we could do to solve that problem for somebody. But the vast majority of the people they only owned one and they thought it was their best investment and they don't have more because they don't know how to. Yeah. And I think that says a lot. Out there. And I think that's where a podcast like this, I don't have anything to sell. I'm not here this is because I'm having fun. I don't want to be bored. I have a good company. I got things going on. But I think what's shocking to me is so many people just don't think that they can own real property or buy rental property, or if they do, how to take it to the next level. And I think you mentioned it earlier in the conversation where how you learned how to take what you got to get more as far as rental houses, leveraging, refinancing, all that. And people don't understand how that works. So that's something that gets me kind of jazzed on like educating people. And nobody wants to talk to me when I'm hanging out at the grill in a neighborhood because nobody wants to talk about business because that's what all I talk about. But at least I get you on here and, I got you captive and we can talk about it. Maybe somebody else
like talking about real estate.
That's all I talk about. Yeah.
Me too, man. My wife gets tired of it, I'm sure, but it's all good.
Well, you got her to get a real estate license. So that's props.
I didn't want to have to disclose that I was a licensed agent to homeowners. Still got to disclose it, but yeah.
And then I've got a license. Of course, I got a property management company, so I kind of have to have the brokerage. But I don't mind. I'll make the lowball offers, but I completely disclose everything. I tell them, hey, if I was listing your house, this is what I'd list it at. If I was going to rehab it, this is how much I was going to pay. This is what I'm hoping to get if I sold it or refinance. This is what I'm hoping to appraise. I'm completely transparent on everything. I'm like, hey, I hope to make X amount of dollars in this house if I sell it or whatever. You know how many times that bothered them?
Yeah, probably
none.
Yeah.
No, they're like, okay, so you're able to buy my house next week as it is with the hole in the roof, with the see through the walls, the cabinets busted up, and I don't have to fix anything, and I don't have to wait on a bank appraisal, and you're just going to close on this in like 4 days, 5 days. Yeah. They're like, where do I sign? Where do I sign? And I mean, I give them comps. I mean, I show them everything, and that's never been a problem.
They already know what it's worth. Everybody knows like what their houses are worth nowadays with the power of Zillow and all that stuff. People have an idea.
Yeah. So it's just never been a challenge. But I have tried to send your wife some referrals for buyers and sellers, and she's like, I don't think so.
She's picky about what she takes on. She's busy, man.
She might be picky on where it comes from. It's like, if Kyle's giving it to me, maybe it's not worth having. No, it's because I'm too lazy to drive out there and show them houses. So
she's got a full-time job taking care of our 2 boys. So she stays busy enough with that.
I don't know how moms that have jobs do it.
Oh, I don't either, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
my wife has a full-time job taking care of our 2 and the house, and it's a lot.
That is a lot of work.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. I appreciate everything, man. And
thanks, buddy.
Maybe the next time we have a charity auction, somebody wants to come to our launch, they'll show up after.
And we'll see.
Knowing that you're famous for being on a podcast.
Sounds good.
All right.